What's up, world? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to talk about the most common myths about the military and the Air National Guard.
Check this out.
Just be human. So like I said, today we're going to talk about the myths of the military and the Air National Guard. But as always, before I get started, these are the views and opinions expressed by myself, not that of the Department of Defense, not that of the Air Force or any of its components, or the US government. All right, so let's hop into these myths. Number one myth that I tend to hear very often, and this has more to do with prior service than new people coming into the military, is that, wait, so if I switch, I was told I would have to redo basic training. Wrong. Absolutely not. You have done basic training, you only have to do it once. We've dealt with prior service members that haven't served in like 19 years, and they do not have to go back to basic training. And they were from a completely different component, right? And they're trying to come to the Air National Guard, and they were worried about that. Absolutely nothing to worry about. Two, also more prior service, actually 100% prior service. These first few are really prior service. I don't know what they're telling people, but basically, people are being told if they come over, they have to lose rank. Now, yes, that happens sometimes. So I'm not going to completely debunk that might happen, but there's very specific conditions for that. One is, I just put on E7 and I'm in the Army and I want to go to the Air Force and I haven't done any of the professional military educations of the Air Force and I've barely been wearing that E7 and I'm trying to go into the Air National Guard, but it is super hard as an E7 because once you get up to E7, E8, E9, it is insanely hard. There are only so many slots, so many positions for those ranks. So you might have to throw off that rank if you want to come over into an E6 position. Depending on what you're trying to do, maybe even E5 position, right? And so just consider that. Any other cases though, you're not gonna lose that rank, okay? You earn that rank. You deserve that rank. You've done the Army's BLC, I believe it's called, and I don't know, the Marines and Navy version of that, and maybe Coast Guard and Space Force or whatever, right? I'm just trying to make the point that you've done that school, you earned that rank, you hit everything they were looking for, and they deemed you worthy of becoming that rank. We're not going to take that rank away. The only caveat is you will still have to attend what's called Airman Leadership School or Non-Commissioned Officer Academy. Airman Leadership School is if you want to become an E5 or a non-commissioned officer. If you want to go to NCOA, that's mainly for if you want to become an E7. So let's say you do happen to come over as an E7. It works out. You find a slot, yes, you will have to go to NCOA again. Now, for all those cases, you can go in person or you can do it virtually. You work that out with your unit. For example, I have done Non-Commissioned Officer Academy online. I'm a former Airman Leadership School instructor myself, and I've done Airman Leadership School in person or in residence. But NCOA, I decided to do online because recruiter life is busy and I have a lot of personal goals already and I want to be ready for that next opportunity. Myth number 3. So, I hear if I join the military, I'm going to deploy. I'm going to go to war. I'm going to potentially die. That is probably the most common for anyone, whether relatives, whether somebody who's not even affiliated to the military or understands the military at all, or just public opinion in general. Yes, we are the profession of arms. Yes, expectation is if a deployment comes up, that you'd be willing and ready to go on that deployment. Now, many things factor into this. What branch of service are you in? Are you in the Marines? Are you in the Army? Are you in the Air Force? Are you in the Space Force? Are you in the Coast Guard? Are you in, what are you in? Okay, what component are you in? Are you reserves? Are you guard? It'll vary. For example, I know units, they deploy all the time. I also know units, they've never deployed or almost never deployed. It depends. Is it a training unit? Is it a special forces unit? Is it Air Combat Command unit? Just talking Air Force here, right? So look at that, for example. Then look at your actual Air Force specialty code, right? Or your MOS, which is your job. Okay, that also depends on whether or not you'll deploy. And then the different branches overall they're going to deploy differently as well. Army deploys more as a unit. Air Force is starting to shift that way, okay? But that's not usually the case. Deployment rotations come around. For example, in the Air Force, we have what's called deployment band, and those come around. For certain units, for example, let's say it's every 2 years, right? That means a deployment for that entire unit will come around every 2 years, an opportunity to deploy. Now let's say you're part-time, you're in the Air National Guard. Okay, you're doing that 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. Guess what? Yes, you have state benefits. Yes, you have federal benefits, but many traditional members have not even become eligible for some of those federal benefits because they haven't done enough active time. So what are they probably doing? Volunteering for those deployments, okay? Because it depends on the unit, it depends on the job, it depends on so many things. Myth number 4. So I want to go Air National Guard because I want to serve close to home, but I also would love to travel, and I was told if I go Air National Guard, I'm going to be stuck. Absolutely not. Yes, the idea is in the Air National Guard to serve close to home, but guess what? You have tons of travel opportunities. We have what's called temporary duties, where you'll get sent for trainings or otherwise on these trips for sometimes weeks at a time, months at a time. It depends on what it is and what your job is, once again. And you'll get paid full-time pay and paid full-time benefits. You'll get to travel, you'll get to see the world, you'll get to do things. Same thing with deployment opportunities, right? You have that in the Air National Guard as well. Okay, and then you have your technical training schools. Sometimes there's multiple different ones you'll go to for your job. Or if you cross-train to another job, you'll have to go to another school for that. And of course, for basic training, right? You'll have to move and go there for that. Same again with the technical training. It'll vary on the length of time based on the job that you pick. But there are absolutely travel opportunities, tons of travel opportunities. Now that being said, you also have the opposite. For the people that think I'm going to leave and deploy and travel all the time and I don't want to do that. You have the opportunity not to do that. It is extremely flexible, especially in the Air National Guard, okay? It's very much in your control. Now your unit has a big say in that, your job has a big say in that, but so do you. You also have a big say in that because guess what? We as the Air National Guard are there to support your full-time civilian lifestyle. Unless you decide to go full-time, unless you decide to go what's called Active Guard Reserve, you were only there that 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. Or let's say you do government salary job or you get on orders, things like that, okay? But for the most part, you're there 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. Myth number 5. I have done drugs, so I am no longer eligible to join the military. False. Many states have now legalized marijuana. Now, while it's not federally allowed, there are situations where, let's say you've done marijuana so many times. You've done any type of drug so many times. For marijuana specifically, as long as you haven't done it 45 days before going to MEPS, you're good to go. And then you can never do it again. And you sign paperwork saying you're never going to do it again. For any other drugs, it'll depend on what type of drug it is. Some of them we have waivers for, and it depends on how long ago it happened, okay? Very many factors go into whether or not you qualify for military service. Drug history is just one of the many areas, and we have to dig into our regulations and don't assume just because you have something in your history that you're disqualified. So make sure you reach out to a local recruiter, okay? Reach out to a recruiting office. You can go near your local community somewhere. Your bases have them that are nearby. Malls have them. You'll see them around. Or you can go to every branch's individual websites and they'll route you to a recruiter. Thanks for checking out this video. I hope you enjoyed the 5 most common myths that I've heard and dealt with. And please take the time, if you have not yet, subscribe, like, comment. Please do that. Check out my other videos because once again, I'll be coming out with a lot more content to include qualification requirements to join the Air National Guard.